Right, guys, welcome back to Something Cool again. Today we have, what you're laughing at, something cool. So we're here with Jaques today. We've done a great 2 shoots with him, Lacquer Oak. So he's going to give us a bit more insight on products, retail, selling it on a national level, online with retail suppliers. So we're going to dive into that, and then hopefully it can help you also, if you have products, help you scale that up. Jaques, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
That's a pleasure, anytime.
I'm excited to answer your questions.
I'm excited to hear the feedback.
Awesome.
So, man, with products, you know, that before you start the whole business, you of course have to select a product first. But what is that decision-making process, that research that goes into it? Because that does depend the success of, doesn't help, you know, we're living in Antarctica and we're selling ice. That's not going to work. So what is your decision process to choose the correct product to sell?
So I'd say the first thing is you obviously have to see what's going on in the world, because the world's big, you know. So and what are the different trends, you know? So you gotta look at all these different type of trends out there, and then try to determine. It's always a risk. So you're gonna either strike it or you're not gonna strike it. So you've just got to take like the what do you call it, like a proper chance on it, and see what happens after that.
Yes.
So I would say that's the big thing, is just try to see what's out there, what's not out there, and then take a chance.
Is there certain tools that you use to make that process?
Yeah, like research is a proper thing. So when you come across a product, and I'll go for example's sake, the blue light blocking glasses that we do. It was not just only a trend, but there was also a pandemic that happened. So, you know, immediately you start looking at what's happening in the world. Okay, screen time is increasing by 90%. People are more sitting at their desks more. So, okay, that's step number one. So you've seen something's happening out in the world, for example's sake. You look at other companies, what's happening with their companies, and then you start just basic research, you know. For example's sake, look at the eyewear industry in South Africa. It's a couple of billions of rands, for example's sake. So now you say, okay, let me look into it even more deeper. You know, what prescription glasses versus non-prescription glasses. Oh wow, you know, 80% of the country doesn't wear prescription glasses. Boom, that's a market in itself. So you gotta do proper research. And you gotta look what's happening around you. You know, opportunities is everywhere. So
Do you do the research yourself, or do you outsource it, or have someone that does it for you?
So usually when it comes to that type of exciting stuff, I do it myself. But I do also have people. So if I don't have the time to do the research, I'll get 1 or 2 of my people to do the research for me, and just try to make it simple. Because usually in the beginning, numbers make sense. So you would look at, you know, is that number of what I explained, you know, a couple of billion of rand, that's a boom. Okay, how can I get a share of that couple of billions of rands? And that's how you kind of just, fairly in the beginning stage already, you'll see, is it possible, is it not possible?
And then, so when you selected a product, of course, you need a manufacturer, someone that's going to supply you with it, that creates the product.
Correct.
What is the process there as well? Because you can't just get someone that does it cheap and fast, and then when you sell the product, it has low quality, and then it falls back onto you. You're a bad product provider. So how do you select who makes the products?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, because it's trial and error. You might have to go through 3 different suppliers to find the one right supplier. I would just, from my point of view, I would say, firstly, you know, response time from suppliers overseas. Response time is quite important. If a possible supplier takes a week to get back to you, you're already at a disadvantage. So, you know, getting communication, having a good communication channel, and then also you're building a relationship with someone that's, you know, flipping 2,000 kilometers away from you, or 3,000, or whatever amount of kilometers away from you. You're building a relationship. So you suss each other out. You see, you know, when you get your first shipment, how it looks. Did they deliver on what they promised? Does it equal to the amount that you paid? You know, all those little things that you have to make sure of. And then you carry on from there on. If it's not, then you have to go and try to look for a new supplier. And sometimes you only win on the 3rd or the 4th supplier. with one of my other brands, the ice baths, exactly the same thing happened there. I had one supplier, they sent me the first set of ice baths. It was not what I wanted. So I'm at supplier number 3 at the moment, and this seems to be the golden supplier. There's also that reciprocation.
The product itself, when you get your supplier, do they have an existing design that you choose from, or can they create it or design it from scratch to the way you want your product to look or work?
So usually it's a custom design of a product. You will then just alter it. So you would, with regards to your branding, you'll put your branding on there. There might be extra fees involved in there. So when it comes to the financial side of things, you gotta also make way for extra fees that can occur with altering it to your specific brand out there.
When you select a supplier, do you have to do a batch shipment of X amount of quantities, or can you do, let's say, 5 items at a time? So I'm just thinking, if you do a batch shipment, let's say, of 500 ice balls, so if you only had to supply 3, and what financial knock is that to keep bringing in those amount of quantities?
No, look, it definitely, the suppliers differ. Some of them only require a minimum order quantity of 10 units. Some of them a minimum order quantity of 100 units. So yes, there is knocks involved, especially if you want to get to the best possible pricing, because obviously you want to have your best landed price in SA. Your quantities need to be far higher, so the risk is far higher. So for me, I like to get the best pricing. So yes, have I taken knocks on certain products? Absolutely. But there are always other ways of getting that out. So for example's sake, if a product doesn't work, there's a platform called One Day Only. You get it on One Day Only, so you at least don't take a knock. You might just break even, but you won't take that big of a knock, and hopefully it sells on One Day Only, for example's sake. Or you push it into retail as a special. There's 100 different ways of dealing with that knock, but yeah, there's no certainty for not taking a knock, especially when you're dealing, because you can't send the stock back.
Well, it's a business. It comes with the risk. Yeah, no, that's how it is. Do you, when you created the product and you have, the manufacturing, all of that in place, now you need to scale the business, not just, because everyone can create an online store and then it sits, but then nothing can happen. So now you need to scale it up into a level that there's actually sales happening. Same with the retail aspect, going into retail, getting people that, for instance, this came Westpac, getting your product out there for them to sell for you. What is the process going from just an online store and then selling a lot online or as well on Takealons and then moving over to the retail side itself? How do you scale that?
Scalability is a beautiful word, and I think different businesses kind of get to a scalability point at different times. One business can take 3 years and then they start scaling. Another business could scale after 6 months or a year. My honest opinion is that it depends. If you feel that online you're doing enough online and you're ready, you geared up, you've got all the systems in place, because to scale, just the word scale means big, right? You get that feeling of big, and that's what scalability is. You want to make it bigger, but to be able to do bigger, you need to have systems in place. You need to have products, so you need to have all those things in place before you can scale. So from our perspective, scalability, there's no specific formula to it, but you've got to have your systems in place before you can even think of scaling up.
What systems do you mean to have in place?
Systems, for example, make sure you got enough product. Because if you want to scale and you hit a bullseye, big retail group, they need 1,000 units of this. You need to be able to supply it. You can't overpromise and underdeliver. Systems like your administrative system, your accounting system, your sales system, all these very, very important aspects to any business, it needs to be in place first before you can scale.
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. So how the process works, just for the viewers to understand a bit more. So how the process works is with retail, with an online store, you don't need as much stock, because the stock that you buy is the stock that physically you bought it and you have it. So that's in-store stock. So for instance, if it's ordered online and you at least know it takes 3 days for your shipping to arrive, then you can still get away with it. But with retail, you don't. They only pay you once the sales happen of the product, or do they pay you in advance for the amount that they receive?
No, honestly, to be honest with you, retail is a different animal, completely different. Retail, you've got retailers that sit with your money for 90 days, 120 days. So you got to outlay that capital. You got to get that product, put that product in, and hopefully you get your money back within 90 to 120 days. So that's retail and I'm talking in general now. Sometimes you do get proper retailers who pay you in terms, but the majority of the big retailers have your 90 days or your 60 days or 120 days where they pay you. So you gotta know that you gotta be able to support yourself for 90 or 120 days.
So you need that capital expense.
You definitely need. Where online, yes, online it's easier manageable, but online also has its challenges, because online you have courier fees, you've got, your take-a-lot fees, your one-day only fees, all these other different fees that you also need to take into account.
I also think it's a lot more physical management, because per sale that happens online, someone needs to make sure that gets sent to the right person, whereas in retail, you take the product, you go to the till, you pay for it, and there you have it.
Well, in my experience, I think online is obviously way easier than retail.
Yes.
Way easier manageable.
Yes.
That's why most people only stick to online and they don't necessarily go into retail.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the challenges with retail then, if you say it's easier manageable online?
Retail, where do I begin? Besides getting, in a lot of cases, getting your money 90 to 120 days later, there's logistical challenges. Deliveries, getting involved with the right courier companies. Then there's returns. That's a thing that happens. Breakages. Depends which type of products you've got. But there's in the food industry you've got shelf life. So you got to make sure that your shelf life is okay. And if you've got a product that's got a shelf life, then obviously that's hectic, because you only have, call it, that product has 3 months shelf life. You only have 3 months to sell that product out of the store. Otherwise, it comes back to you. So look, the list, I can keep you busy here for an hour, but there's a lot of challenges with retail. Plus, I would say the biggest challenge is the financial aspect, which is your money is tied up, and that's a really big. It's a big thing.
And then why do you have your stock in retail if it's such a challenge? Is there still a financial gain, or?
I think it's more, and a lot of people have different opinions on this, but it's marketing massively. Your product's out there, especially when you join hands with good retailers, proper name brand retailers. Your credibility just gets a big thumbs up. It's like, for example, say online, and I'll take it over to online as well. Online, you can have the most beautiful website in the world. It doesn't mean you're going to have sales, because you don't have credibility. Take-a-lot is there. If you're on Take-a-Lot, you automatically get credibility because of Take-a-Lot's name. Yes, you pay top dollar to be on there, but you've got credibility. Same with retail side. The financial, yes, I'm not saying there's no financial, nothing financially positive about retail. There is. It's just you wait longer.
Yes, I think it's more long-term.
Long-term.
The way
You've got to be able to handle that. Some companies have, big money tied up in retail, and they've got to wait for that money.
For then someone starting out, would it be more beneficial, instead of waiting the 90 or 120 days for the money, to actually just pump everything into Take-a-Lot, have the credibility, and then just leave retail out?
Yeah, I think at a certain point you got to be geared up, like I said, for retail. You really got to be geared up. So your systems have to be in place. It goes together with scalability, because scalability and going to retail almost sits hand in hand with each other. So you have to say to yourself, okay, online, I've been doing such a great job online. Can I do a lot more? I don't know. But if you go to retail, you got to really be ready for it, because financially you got to be able to still pay your bills. It can't, that 90 or 120 days can't say, in a lot of cases, especially small to medium sized businesses, it can kill you overnight, and that's a reality.
Do the retailers, so you say they pay you after 90 or 120 days, but what do they pay you? Do they pay you for the stock that has been sold, or for the total amount of stock that you produce to them?
So generally they pay you what you invoiced.
Okay.
So the stock you sold to them, that's what they pay. But remember, that's where the returns thing comes in as well. So you do have, like, my businesses have a returns policy, 100% returns policy.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't sell, I take back the stock, I credit you. So
Okay.
so that's where, if they do pay us and they end up sending back stock, we have to pay them back. So it's like a mutual benefit for both us and the retailers.
With the products, along with the product comes the brand, of course, because again, the credibility, it falls back onto that. So if people hear Truly Blue, they know, okay, the blue light blocking glasses, they know it's a known brand. If they hear Truly Health, which is just starting out now, but again, the idea is for once they hear Truly Health, they know it's a known brand, they know it's accountable, it's trustworthy.
Yes.
How do you build your brand to stand for what it is currently? For, like I just said, it's trustworthy, they know it's a valuable brand. How do you expose your brand and build around that?
I think for me, a number one rule has always been customer service. It's not something that's easily available, especially in the world we're living in. So number one is customer service, being on top of things, not to let things slip through your fingers. In other words, for example's sake, if we get orders, private orders, we phone our clients afterwards. It's unheard of. You don't get that. It's very seldom that you buy something on Takealot and Takealot phones you the next day and says to you, Michael, are you happy with your purchase? Is there anything we can do for you? You're going to be, wow, that's truly amazing. So for us, it's customer service as a massive thing. Then trying to be on top of the latest trends of your industry. So whether it's the eyewear industry or the ice bath industry or whatever, just trying to be on top of that industry and launching new and innovative products to keep people excited about the brand. And then also getting involved with ambassadors, those type of things. If you get involved with some big names out there, yet again, credibility. It builds a bit of comfort around your brand, if I can call it that. So, yeah.
But I'd like to add on that he said the ambassadors that help you to grow the product. A pitfall to watch out for, one we've noticed, is we all know about people that it seems they have one huge audience or following on Instagram. But if you go and do a deep dive, you'll actually see that, for instance, they're stationed in South Africa, but all of their following is from India or it's Russia. So even the comments under their posts, you can see that it's bots. So don't just trust the number that's on their profile. Do a deep dive. Go through, go look at the audience, because the audience needs to resemblance your brand as well. It doesn't help you. You're selling ice baths and you're going for someone that's not even into sport or any mental health at all. So the obese audience, you're not going to help to target that specifically. So I would just...
I can actually vouch for that, because it's happened to me personally with a number of occasions where people love to get free stuff. It's quite funny, but the problem is that when, especially in the beginning phases, you trust people, you think they're going to take your brand to the next level. So a lot of these people just, they get free product and then you never hear from them again. And I'm talking about, there's even been companies, proper companies, and it has good names that's done that, where we've... So you do get bitten, but hopefully once bitten, twice shy.
Yes.
The situation. So
how would you avoid pitfalls? What is that certain thing you look out for now, currently? You avoid that not from happening.
I think it's fairly difficult to to see these people come in.
Yes.
I just say think twice before you say yes. Don't just be the yes man. Yes, we'll do it. Yes, we'll do it. For the sake of have a limit. For example's sake, with Truly Out with the ice sports, we had a cap, X amount of people, and anything over that needs to really be someone, like a rock star. It really needs to, and it needs to be a proper person who comes to you, or it's one of your contacts. But you have to have a cap and say,
Yes.
and then just look out, like you said, speak to people like Michael, and you gotta look out for these bots thingies.
Yes. Balancing the retail and the online sales. Of course, there's a pricing structure difference because each has its pros and cons, and the amount of work that goes into each separate channel. So, deciding on that pricing structure, what's the process there to determine? Not determining the product price itself, but determining what's the price difference for retail and for online sales.
So also a difficult question, but in general, what we do is you don't want to go more than a specific price in general, whether it's online or retail. Online has its fees, which you've got to take into account. Retail, the average retailer has a specific markup that he or she does, and you need to try to figure out what that markup is so that you stay in alignment with your pricing. I think that is the most crucial part, is that you just don't overprice. You're never going to get it 100% right. That's a fact. But to try to just stay in that your price range where you said, okay, my price is 10 Rand. I'm not going more than 10 Rand, and just work from there. Online and retail. That's the you got to look at that and you'll only get that right after you've tried it a couple of times and you've worked out the numbers.
Is it a good or bad thing for your price to differ from the retail price? For instance, let's say now my online sales on my website, I'm charging 100 Rand for a shoe. And in retail, it costs 150 Rand, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Would it be better to keep the price at the same level?
The ideal is to keep the price the same. But in saying that, yet again, there's fees involved with online. Retailers have to have their, specific markup. You have to it's a very difficult thing because you can't necessarily, if a retailer puts up a 100% markup, there's no way. You'll never be able to get the price. But that's then on them and not on you, if you get what I'm saying. So they're going to outprice themselves. So you can have a backup to say, listen, I've tried it. This is my price. I've tried to give you the best possible price, but you're going to be outpricing yourself. It's not on us. So definitely to keep the price the same is the best, unless in certain cases where you're doing promotions, your own promotions on your own website, or for example, say on Takealot in these places. But that's a variable. That's a very quick 1 day or 1 week promotion that you're doing. That won't really be, in my opinion, that won't make a massive difference.
What is your take on if you price something? Where does the line come of being too cheap, so people think it's a cheap product, so the quality isn't good, versus being too overpriced where it doesn't feel worth buying it?
In my experience, also a difficult question, but you need to never make your own product too cheap. It's not good, because then it depends also and that's why I say it's a difficult question, because it depends which market you're trying to reach. You know what I mean? If you want to reach a low LSM market, then you are going to make your product cheap. But then you need to have a cheap product. If you want to reach a medium...
What does LSM stand for?
LSM is, I'm not sure what the correct standing is, but it's LSM is an area So it will be a poor area, poor area, medium,
Well, lower income.
Yeah, there is a name for it, and we can research it. LSM. But the most important part is just you got to first determine which market are you going to hit. You're going to hit the low income market. You're going to hit the medium income market or the high income market, and then you got to try and see what your pricing is like.
Because everyone tries to reach the high income market because you want to sell it at a higher price. But that's the thing is where's that point of now you're saying you overprice yourself? Because you believe in your product. Everyone
believes in their product.
Yeah, everyone, no matter when you start something, you believe it. You're like, okay, this is gonna be big. Now you charge 200 rand for the shoe, and then people and they don't buy it, so then you have to lower it. Because there's always this point for me where you find something on Takealot, you see it's a good price, you see the reviews, and you're like, oh, and you buy it, and then it's worth value. It's like, yes, I paid actually cheap for it, but it's a good product. That's the thing is
I find you're not wrong there. I have another trick that I usually try though, and that is that I do go to people close to me, and I will give them a sample, and 99.9% of the time, they actually would say they would pay more for what the prices I had in mind. So 99% of the time, that's what would happen. So that's something I do to determine whether it's a good, where the pricing should be.
if you ask people, would you buy this? They always make you say yes. They're like, yes, I would buy it. I'm like, okay, cool, give me the money then. And then like, oh, okay, no, wait. So I like that. Give people a sample and say, what would you pay for this?
No, or they'll even give you a range. So they'll say, I'll pay between 500 and 700 rand for this. Boom, at least you got a starting point. If you have 10 people that give you a price of 500 rand, that's your price. That's a good, in Afrikaans we call it a steekproef.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate it. A little bit over time, but it's valuable, so you don't mind.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for being here.
Oh, pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. It was lekker. Let's do it again.
Most definitely. Let us know if there's anything else you would like us to discuss, even if it's again, because in terms of retail and product sales, it can be a very long topic and there's a lot of things to discuss. So if there's anything else you think we missed, let us know and we'll just arrange for another sit down and we'll talk about it again. But until next time, guys, we'll see you. Thank you a lot.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.